Three blades glinted under gas station lights at 11:43 p.m. The tallest attacker pressed steel against 7-year-old Lily's throat, drawing blood. Her mother screamed. 15-year-old Eli watched from his cardboard shelter, hands shaking, 8 months of survival instinct screaming at him to stay hidden. But Lily's terrified face looked exactly like the brother he'd lost 5 years ago. He had 4 seconds before that blade opened her throat. What Eli didn't know, this wasn't random. The man who murdered his father was watching from the shadows, and this attack was meant to finish what started on a highway 5 years ago. Eli grabbed the tire iron. His choice would bring 600 Hell's Angels to their knees. Welcome to Echo Tales, where watching and listening bring real stories of hardship and hope straight to you. As you experience it, may God watch over you and remind you that light still shines. If you're here, don't pass through quietly, subscribe, like, and comment. Now, let's enjoy the story together. The orange glow from the gas station sign painted everything in shades of rust and shadow. Eli counted 3 silhouettes emerging from the black van at 11:43 p.m., their movements synchronized like wolves closing in on prey. From his nest of flattened cardboard behind the dumpster, he watched steel blades catch the light, and his stomach dropped. 8 months sleeping rough had rewired his instincts. Trouble smelled like opportunity to get hurt. Smart meant invisible. Smart meant breathing shallow and waiting for danger to pass like thunderstorms, violent, temporary, survivable if you kept your head down. The woman loading groceries into her SUV didn't notice them until the tall one grabbed her daughter. The little girl's scream cut through the February night, high-pitched and terrified. Her mother spun around, shopping bags scattering across pavement, and froze. The blade was already kissing her daughter's neck, a surgical threat that needed no explanation. Eli's throat tightened. The girl couldn't be older than 7. Braids. Pink jacket. Clutching some stuffed animal like it could protect her from men who specialized in making people disappear. Listen, I know you could scroll past this. But if you stay, if you hit that subscribe button and drop a comment telling me where you're from, you're telling me these stories matter. That forgotten kids like Eli deserve to have their moment heard. So do that for me. Subscribe. Comment your city. Let's make this count. The second attacker circled the mother, blade low and ready. The third positioned himself to block any escape route toward the gas station entrance. Professional. Practiced. This wasn't their first time. Wallet. Phone. Keys. Move fast or your daughter bleeds. The tall one's voice was flat, mechanical, like he delivered this script 100 times. The mother's hands shook as she dug through her purse. The Hell's Angels patch on her leather jacket caught Eli's attention, Phoenix Charter, detailed stitching, the kind of thing that meant family to certain people. She dropped her phone. Bent to pick it up. The shorter attacker kicked it away. Too slow. The blade shifted from the girl's neck down toward her stomach. The mother lunged forward with a sound that barely registered as human, pure maternal terror condensed into a single cry. The third man grabbed her by the hair, wrenched her backward. Her head bounced off the SUV's door panel. She crumpled. Mama. The little girl, Lily, Eli would learn later, struggled against the arm locked around her chest. 7 years old and learning the hardest lesson, sometimes nobody comes to save you. Eli's body made the decision before his brain finished processing. His fingers closed around the rusted tire iron he'd salvaged last week. 15 years old. 90 pounds soaking wet. ribs still aching from where Derek had fractured them 6 months before Eli finally ran. Every survival rule he'd learned said stay hidden. Every scar on his back said mind your business. Every empty night behind this dumpster said you're nobody and heroes die alone. But Lily's face looked like Danny's had 5 years ago when cops knocked on their door to say Dad wasn't coming home from Highway 60. Danny, who was 9 then, who Eli left behind with their aunt because staying meant becoming a punching bag for Mom's string of violent boyfriends. Eli charged. The tire iron connected with the nearest attacker's shoulder. Bone crunched. The man bellowed, spinning toward this new threat, some starving kid with more guts than sense. Go! Eli screamed at the mother. Run! She understood instantly. Scooped Lily up, sprinted toward the gas station, already dialing, already screaming into her phone. 2 attackers left. Both now focused entirely on Eli. The tall one smiled, genuinely amused. You just volunteered to die, kid. The blade came fast. Eli tried to dodge. Too slow. Steel punched through his shoulder, white-hot and deep. His vision exploded into stars. The tire iron fell from numb fingers, clattering across pavement that suddenly felt too far away. He hit the ground hard. Asphalt shredded his palms. Blood, his blood, spread warm and fast down his left arm, soaking through fabric that was already falling apart. The second knife came while he was down. Slid between his ribs like a key finding a lock. Something inside tore. He tasted metal and gasoline, felt warmth flooding his mouth. Marcus said clean, the tall one muttered. No witnesses means no witnesses. The third attacker, still bleeding from where the tire iron caught him, kicked Eli in the side. The ribs that Derek had cracked 6 months ago snapped completely. Eli felt them break, felt fragments grinding inside his chest, felt his lung collapse in a rush of pressure that turned breathing into drowning. Sirens wailed in the distance. The attackers exchanged glances, cold and calculating. We're done here. They vanished into the darkness between buildings, professional ghosts who knew exactly when to disappear. Eli tried to stand. His legs wouldn't cooperate. The parking lot tilted sideways, neon lights smearing into abstract art. He was lying down now, though he didn't remember falling. The asphalt felt cold despite the blood pooling warm beneath him. Footsteps rushed back. The mother dropped to her knees in his blood, hands pressing against wounds that wouldn't stop leaking. Lily stood behind her, crying, that stuffed rabbit crushed against her chest. Stay with us, honey. Help's coming. You're going to be okay. What's your name? Can you tell me your name? Eli's lips moved. No sound came out. Just copper and darkness creeping in from the edges. Then engines. Not cars. Motorcycles. Dozens of them converging on the parking lot like mechanical cavalry, headlights cutting through shadows, chrome flashing, leather and patches and organized chaos. A man vaulted off his bike before it stopped moving. Dropped into Eli's blood like he belonged there. His hands hovered over Eli's chest, shaking, tears already cutting tracks down a weathered face that looked familiar in a way that made Eli's failing brain spark with recognition. That face. From old photographs hidden in Eli's jacket pocket. Uncle Hector. Mom's brother-in-law. The man who supposedly died 5 years ago in the same crash that took Dad. But he was here. Real. Crying. Not again, Hector choked out, phone already at his ear. Not like Rico. Please, not like this. Eli's eyes closed. The world reduced to voices and engine noise and the sensation of being lifted. Someone was screaming coordinates into a radio. Someone else was applying pressure that hurt worse than the stabbing. The last thing Eli heard before everything went black, Hector's voice, destroyed and desperate, saying, "The boy saved Maria and Lily. And I think, God, I think he's my nephew. I think he's Rico's son." Eli surfaced through layers of morphine fog to the sound of thunder that wasn't thunder. Low, mechanical, rhythmic, hundreds of motorcycle engines idling in perfect synchronization. The sound vibrated through hospital walls, rattled the floor stand beside his bed, hummed in his chest where breathing felt like swallowing broken glass. His eyes opened to white ceiling tiles and fluorescent lights that burned too bright. Mercy General Hospital, according to the sign on the wall. ICU, according to the machine's beeping steady rhythms that said his heart was still beating despite his best efforts to bleed out on gas station asphalt. The window to his left framed something impossible. The parking lot below stretched 3 city blocks, and every inch was packed with motorcycles. Chrome and leather and patches catching morning sun. Hundreds of them. Maybe more. Bikers stood in organized rows like soldiers at attention, faces turned toward the hospital, waiting for something Eli's pain-hazed brain couldn't process. If stories like this grip you, hit like and subscribe so you never miss the next twist. His shoulder screamed when he tried to move. The 4-line tugged. Bandages wrapped his torso so tight he could barely expand his lungs. His left arm was immobilized, strapped across his chest. When he tried to flex his fingers, they barely responded. "Easy, son. Don't move yet." The voice came from the chair beside his bed. Hector sat forward, elbows on knees, face haggard like he hadn't slept in days. His Hell's Angels vest hung on the chair back. Tattoos covered his forearms, names, dates, symbols that meant things to people who lived by code civilians didn't understand. "How long?" Eli's voice came out sandpaper rough. 36 hours. You coded twice on the operating table. Lost 42% of your blood volume. Collapsed lung. Lacerated liver. 3 broken ribs. Shoulder nerve damage that might be permanent. Hector's jaw worked like he was chewing words too bitter to swallow. The surgeon said most people don't survive what you survived. Eli's gaze drifted back to the window. What are they doing here? Paying respect. Hector stood, moved to the window, stared down at the sea of leather and chrome. You saved my wife and daughter. When the call went out. Kid saved the president's family, critical condition at Mercy General, they came. Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee, North Carolina. 600 brothers from 14 charters, and more arriving every hour. President. The word clicked pieces into place. Maria's leather jacket. The Hell's Angels patch. Phoenix Charter. Hector wasn't just a member. He was the man in charge. I don't understand. Eli tried to sit up. Pain exploded through his ribs, bright and vicious. He gasped, fell back against pillows. I said don't move. Hector returned to the bedside, hit the call button. You need more pain medication. I need answers. Eli's vision swam but he forced his eyes to focus. You looked at me like you'd seen a ghost. You said a name. Rico. Hector's face did something complicated, grief and hope and guilt mixing into an expression that looked like it hurt worse than any knife wound. He pulled something from his vest pocket. A photograph, worn at the edges, creased from being folded and unfolded too many times. They found this in your jacket. You were holding it so tight they had to pry your fingers open. Eli recognized it instantly. The only photograph he'd kept when he ran. 8 years old in the picture, gap-toothed smile, standing between his father and uncle at some birthday party before everything fell apart. Before Highway 60. Before Mom chose pills over her son. Before Derek and the basement and the decision that streets were safer than home. "That's my brother Rico," Hector said quietly. "And that's you. Which makes you my nephew. The nephew I've been searching for since your father's funeral 5 years ago." The machines monitoring Eli's heart rate started beeping faster. "You searched for me. Hired 6 private investigators. Spent $38,000 following leads across 12 states. Called in favors from every charter between here and Canada." Hector's voice cracked. "I looked everywhere, Eli. Everywhere except 15 feet from where I ate breakfast every Sunday morning at that gas station." The weight of that statement settled over the room like ash. 5 years. Eli sleeping behind a dumpster while his uncle sat inside drinking coffee, both of them within shouting distance, separated by walls and bad timing and whatever cruel mathematics governed near misses. "Mom didn't want to be found," Eli said flatly. "She thought the club killed Dad. Thought you'd come for us next. Your father died protecting a family whose car broke down on Highway 60. Drunk driver crossed the median doing 90. Rico pushed their car out of the lane, took the impact himself." Hector's hands curled into fists. "He died a hero. And your mother ran because grief and pills convinced her we were the enemy." A nurse entered, checked Eli's vitals, adjusted his foredrip. The morphine hit his bloodstream warm and heavy. The edges of the room softened. "There's something else," Hector said after the nurse left. He pulled out a tablet, brought up X-ray images. Eli's skeleton glowed ghost-white against black background. "Dr. Patterson showed me these. Old fractures. Here, here, and here." His finger traced lines across ribs, wrist, collarbone. "All healed wrong because nobody treated them. He said this pattern is consistent with prolonged abuse." Eli looked away. Didn't want to see his trauma displayed in black and white. Didn't want to explain Derek's steel-toed boots or the basement or the 3 days without food that finally made him choose homelessness over survival in that house. "Who hurt you?" Hector's voice went dangerous, quiet in the way that promised violence. "Doesn't matter. He's probably dead by now. They all end up dead." Eli's words slurred as morphine pulled him toward sleep. Mom had a type. Violent addicts who knew how to break things. Hector's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, and his entire body went rigid. Showed Eli the message from an unknown number. The boy saw something he shouldn't have. "Keep him quiet or Maria and Lily disappear. You have 72 hours. The morphine haze evaporated instantly. Eli's heart rate spiked, machines screaming warnings. "What does that mean?" Hector demanded. "What did you see?" Eli's mouth went dry. 5 years of keeping secrets. 5 years of burying memories so deep he almost convinced himself they were nightmares instead of truth. 5 years of running from the answer to a question nobody had asked until now. "The crash," he whispered. "Highway 60. 5 years ago. I was there." Hector went absolutely still. "What?" I was in the truck stop bathroom across from where it happened. Watched through the window. The words came faster now, dam breaking after half a decade. Dad didn't just swerve to save that family. Someone forced him off the road. Another motorcycle came up beside him, crowded him toward the shoulder, pushed him into the median where the drunk driver was coming. That's not possible. The police report said. The police were wrong. Eli's hands shook. I saw it. The second bike. The rider wore full gear, helmet, gloves. But when Dad went down, when the cars piled up, the rider stopped. Got off his bike. Took off his helmet for maybe 10 seconds while he checked Dad's body. Hector grabbed Eli's good shoulder. You saw his face. I saw his patches. Eli's voice dropped to barely audible. Hell's Angels. Phoenix Charter. VP rocker clearly visible. The color drained from Hector's face. My VP. Wade Garrett. I was 10 years old and terrified and didn't understand what I'd seen until last night at the gas station. Eli's words tumbled out desperate and fast. He was there, Uncle Hector. Standing at the gas station entrance while those men attacked Maria and Lily. Just watching. Making sure it happened. And when he saw me watching him, when our eyes met for half a second before I charged those attackers, he smiled. Wade Garrett arrived at the hospital 20 minutes after Hector made the call. 6'3", silver beard braided down his chest, arms sleeved in ink that told stories of 30 years wearing the patch. He'd been Hector's VP for 12 years, his right hand, the brother he trusted with club business and family secrets and the kind of loyalty men killed to protect. Now he stood in the ICU corridor surrounded by 600 bikers who didn't know they were standing vigil beside a murderer. Hit that like button and subscribe because what happens next will make you question everyone you trust. Hector met Wade at the nurse's station, his face carved from stone and barely contained rage. We need to talk. Private. Wade's expression showed perfect concern. How's the kid? Maria told me what he did. That's the kind of courage we respect. Hell of a thing, throwing himself at armed men for strangers. Conference room. Now. Hector didn't wait for response, just walked, knowing Wade would follow because refusing would raise questions Wade couldn't afford. The conference room was small, gray, institutional. Hector locked the door behind them. Wade took a seat like nothing was wrong, like he hadn't sent 3 men with knives to murder a 15-year-old witness. The boy remembers Highway 60, Hector said quietly. Wade's face didn't change. Decades of practiced deception made his confusion look genuine. Highway 60. That's where Rico died, isn't it? 5 years ago. He was there. Saw the whole thing through a truck stop window. Hector circled the table slowly, predator assessing prey. Watched a second motorcycle force his father off the road. Watched that rider stop, remove his helmet, check Rico's body to make sure he was dead. Brother, the kid's been through trauma. Head injuries, blood loss, morphine. He saw your patches, Wade. Phoenix Charter VP. Clear as day. Wade stood slowly, hands raised in placating gesture. You're not thinking straight. That boy's a homeless kid who's been surviving on streets for months. His brain's trying to make sense of random violence by creating patterns that don't exist. It's called trauma response. I took psychology courses, remember? Then explain this. Hector placed his tablet on the table, pulled up the text message. The boy saw something he shouldn't have. Keep him quiet or Maria and Lily disappear. Wade studied the screen, and for half a second, something flickered behind his eyes. Recognition. Calculation. Then it was gone, buried under more concern. Someone's threatening your family. Hector, we need to lock this hospital down, get security. Eli kept something. Hector's voice went deadly soft. His father's dashcam SD card. Hidden in his jacket lining for 5 years. He handed it to me 20 minutes ago. The room's temperature dropped 10 degrees. Wade's face remained neutral but his shoulders tensed, spine straightening in the way bodies do when fight or flight kicks in and flight isn't an option. You want to watch it with me? Hector asked. Or you want to tell me the truth first? Silence stretched between them, thick and poisonous. Outside the conference room, 600 brothers waited in ignorant solidarity. Inside, 30 years of brotherhood disintegrated like paper in fire. Wade sat back down, and when he spoke again, his voice carried none of the concern from before. Just cold pragmatism. How much did he tell you? Everything. The crash. The gas station. Your face at the scene last night watching while your hired thugs tried to finish what you started 5 years ago. Hector's hands gripped the table edge hard enough to crack. What I don't know is why. Why kill my brother? Why come after a kid? Why betray everything we built? Because Rico was going to destroy everything we built. Wade leaned back, arms crossed, mask fully dropped now. 3 years of skimming. $180,000 redistributed from club businesses into accounts your brother discovered. He came to me first, gave me a chance to explain. Said he'd take it to you if I didn't make it right. Hector's vision tunneled. You were stealing from us. I was taking what I earned. 30 years wearing this patch, bleeding for this club, and what do we get? Barely enough to cover rent while we make legitimate businesses rich. Wade's voice hardened with righteousness that came from rationalizing betrayal until it felt like justice. I didn't steal. I claimed compensation. So you murdered him. I eliminated a threat to my survival. Wade spoke like he was explaining basic math. Rico wouldn't listen to reason. Said loyalty meant more than money. Said he couldn't let it stand. So I made a choice, my life or his principles. Highway 60. Followed him from that family's breakdown. Waited until the drunk driver was coming. Simple physics from there. Crowded him toward the median. Let momentum and alcohol do the rest. Wade shrugged. Would have been clean except his kid had to be in that truck stop at the exact wrong moment. Hector's hands were shaking. Rage or grief or some combination that felt like his chest was tearing open from the inside. And the gas station attack. Found the kid 3 weeks ago through his mother's dealer connections. She's been buying from suppliers connected to charters. Easy to track once I knew to look. Wade's eyes went flat, remorseless. Couldn't have witnesses. Not with the dashcam footage existing. Hired professionals to make it look like random violence. Eli was supposed to die heroically saving strangers. Clean. Tragic. Over. Maria and Lily were collateral damage to you. They were leverage. Wade leaned forward. I know how you think, Hector. If some random kid died saving your family, you'd make sure he got buried with honors. But you wouldn't investigate too deep. Why would you? Just another street kid who got unlucky playing hero. Except Eli didn't die. No. He didn't. Wade's jaw tightened. Which brings us to our current problem. That dashcam footage exists. The boy's testimony exists. And you now know everything. The door handle rattled. Someone testing if it was locked. Voices outside, concerned brothers wondering why their president and VP had been behind closed doors for 15 minutes. Hector pulled his phone, dialed 911, never breaking eye contact with Wade. I need police at Mercy General Hospital ICU. I have a confession to murder and attempted murder that needs documenting. Wade smiled. Actually smiled. Cold and knowing and not remotely concerned. You think you can just call the police? Turn me over. Have me arrested while 600 brothers stand outside? I think justice doesn't wear patches. I think my brother deserves truth even if it destroys us. Then here's some truth for you, Hector. Wade stood slowly, buttoned his vest with deliberate care. I didn't work alone for 12 years. Couldn't have. Someone else knew. Someone helped me cook the books, hide the money, cover the evidence trail. Someone who sits at your officer table every Tuesday. Someone you trust almost as much as you trusted me. Hector's blood went ice cold. Who? You've got 4 officers besides me. Road Captain Cruz. Treasurer Malik. Enforcer Bennett. Sergeant-at-Arms Pike. Wade moved toward the door. One of them's been my partner since the beginning. One of them helped plan Highway 60. One of them sent that text threatening your family. And one of them already knows about that dashcam footage. Tell me who. Oh, I don't think so. Wade unlocked the door, pulled it open. 600 faces turned toward the sound. See, you can arrest me. Put me in interrogation. Let the police take their shot. But the moment you do, my partner knows the deal's dead. And Maria and Lily become loose ends that need tying. Hector stepped forward. If you touch my family. Not me, brother. I'll be in custody. Wade's smile widened. But my partner? He's standing outside right now with 599 witnesses who'll swear he never left the hospital. Perfect alibi. And you won't know which of your 4 most trusted men is the wolf until bodies start dropping. He walked into the corridor. Brothers parted, confused by the tension. Wade turned back once, face visible to everyone, voice carrying to nearby bikers. Think carefully about what happens next, Hector. You've got 4 officers and 72 hours before the clock runs out. Choose wrong, and your family pays. Choose right, and maybe we can all walk away from this. He paused. Oh, and one more thing. That dashcam footage. My partner has the only other copy. Insurance policy. Just in case. Wade disappeared into the crowd of leather and chrome. Hector stood frozen, every cell in his body screaming to give chase while his brain calculated impossible mathematics. For men he'd trust with his life. One was a murderer. And he had 3 days to figure out which before his family disappeared. Hector gathered his 4 officers in Eli's hospital room at 2:47 a.m. Cruz, Malik, Bennett, and Pike stood in a semicircle around the bed where Eli lay propped against pillows, pale but conscious, the dashcam SD card clutched in his good hand like a talisman against lies. Outside, 600 bikers maintained their vigil, unaware that one of the men they called brother had helped murder Rico Reyes 5 years ago. The morning sun hadn't risen yet, but Phoenix was already awake beyond the hospital windows. Traffic sounds, distant sirens, the city breathing without knowing or caring that inside this room, everything was about to fracture. If you've made it this far, hit that like and subscribe button. Stories like this need to be heard, and you being here matters. One of you helped Wade steal from us, Hector said quietly. One of you helped plan my brother's murder. One of you sent threats against my wife and daughter. And I'm going to find out which before this sun comes up. The four men exchanged glances. Cruz spoke first, his road captain authority making him default spokesman. Brother, we've stood beside you for years. Whatever Wade confessed, he's trying to divide us. That's what traitors do when they're cornered. Then you won't mind if we watch Rico's dashcam footage together, Hector said. All of us. Right now. Malik shifted his weight, treasurer instincts making him calculate angles. What exactly is on this footage? Everything, Eli said, his voice stronger than it had been hours before. My dad's camera caught the entire crash. Wade forcing him off the road. The aftermath. And something else I didn't mention to Uncle Hector yet. Four faces turned toward the kid in the hospital bed. The second motorcycle, Eli continued, fingers tightening on the SD card. Wade wasn't alone on Highway 60. Someone else was there. Someone who stayed back while Wade did the pushing but came forward after to help make sure Dad was dead. The footage caught his bike. And his license plate. The temperature in the room dropped. Hector watched his four officers carefully, looking for tells, nervous glances, tensed shoulders, hands moving toward pockets or exits. Cruz and Bennett remained stone-faced. Pike frowned like he was working through a puzzle. Malik smiled. Small. Brief. Gone in a heartbeat. But Hector had known the man for 15 years, had watched him calculate club finances and manage money and balance books with mathematical precision. And that smile was the one Malik wore when numbers finally aligned correctly. Malik, Hector said softly. The treasurer's expression went neutral. What? Your tattoo. Left hand. The one you got 8 years ago in Tucson. Hector stepped closer. Describe it for me. Phoenix with lightning bolts. Club symbol. Why does that? Malik stopped. Understanding flooded his face. The kid saw a tattoo. Not just any tattoo, Eli said. I was 10 years old hiding behind file cabinets in a truck stop, watching through a window while motorcycles and cars collided on Highway 60. I saw Wade remove his helmet. But I also saw a second rider approach my dad's body. He wore gloves, but one hand, his throttle hand, the glove was torn. And I saw a phoenix with 3 lightning bolts. Cruz and Bennett both looked at Malik's left hand. The tattoo was clearly visible, detailed work that covered his hand from thumb to wrist. Lots of people have phoenix tattoos, Malik said, but his voice carried less conviction now. With 3 lightning bolts specifically? Hector asked. In a club where most brothers get the standard 2-bolt design. 3 bolts for 3 virtues, Pike said slowly, like he was remembering. Loyalty, honor, brotherhood. Malik got it custom. Said it meant something personal. We were all there when he got it inked. Malik's jaw tightened. This is circumstantial. A traumatized kid's memory from 5 years ago. A common tattoo. You're building a case from nothing. Then explain the books, Hector said. Wade skimmed $180,000 over 3 years. That kind of theft requires treasurer cooperation. Someone had to cook the numbers, hide the losses, create fake expenses to cover the gaps. I handle thousands of transactions. If Wade manipulated something without my knowledge, you knew. Eli's voice cut through Malik's defense. Last night at the gas station, you were there. Standing 20 feet behind Wade. Same position as Highway 60, backup, support, second set of eyes. I saw you both. The room went silent except for machinery beeping Eli's vitals and the distant rumble of 600 Harleys outside. Malik's shoulders dropped. The mask of innocence cracked, then shattered completely. Wade promised me a charter. Nevada territory. Said we'd split the money, build something new where your family's legacy didn't control everything. His voice went bitter. 15 years watching you inherit what your father built while the rest of us scraped by on loyalty and empty promises. So you helped murder Rico, Cruz said, his voice deadly quiet. Rico was going to destroy both of us. Wade came to me panicked, said your brother found evidence, said we had hours before everything unraveled. Malik looked at Hector without remorse. We made a choice. Rico's principles or our survival. And survival won. The gas station attack. Hector asked. Wade's plan but my financing. 50,000 split between 3 professionals to eliminate the witness, make it look random, close the loop that's been open 5 years. Malik glanced at Eli. You were supposed to die a hero. Instead, you became a problem with a dashcam and a memory that wouldn't stay buried. Bennett moved to block the door. Pike pulled out his phone, presumably calling hospital security. Cruz just stared at Malik like he was watching a brother he'd known for 15 years become someone unrecognizable. Where's your copy of the dashcam footage? Hector demanded. Safe deposit box in Tucson. Keys in my apartment. Insurance policy like Wade said. Malik actually laughed, bitter and broken. Guess we won't need it now. The next 3 hours moved like dominoes falling. Police arrived, arrested both Wade and Malik. The dashcam footage played in an interrogation room while prosecutors watched and took notes. Cruz retrieved the backup copy from Tucson using keys Malik surrendered. By sunrise, both men were formally charged with first-degree murder, conspiracy, embezzlement, and attempted murder of a minor. 600 bikers learned the truth standing in Mercy General's parking lot while Hector addressed them through a bullhorn, his voice breaking when he talked about Rico, about betrayal wearing Brotherhood's mask, about a 15-year-old homeless kid who proved loyalty meant more than survival. The vote was unanimous. Wade Garrett and Malik Torres, stripped of patches, excommunicated, erased from club history like they'd never existed. 3 months later, Eli sat at the Phoenix Charter Sunday dinner table, wearing his father's colors as a probationary member. Maria had insisted on cooking, tamales and rice and desserts that kept appearing until the table couldn't hold more. Lily sat beside Eli chattering about second grade and her new puppy and how her drawing of an angel with a tire iron won the school art contest. Hector raised his glass at the head of the table, Cruz and Bennett and Pike flanking him, their inner circle rebuilt with men who'd proven loyalty wasn't negotiable. To Rico. To family we're born into and family we choose. To second chances and sons who come home. To Dad, Eli said quietly, glass raised. His shoulder still ached, physical therapy twice a week said nerve damage might be permanent. But he could grip, could ride, could wear the patch his father died protecting. Outside, Motorcycles lined the street, not 600 this time, just 20 from the Phoenix charter. Brothers who'd welcomed Rico's son, who'd taught him to rebuild engines and navigate club politics and understand that loyalty wasn't a word, it was a choice you made every single day. Lily grabbed Eli's hand under the table. "You're really staying forever?" "Forever," Eli confirmed. "Good. Angels aren't supposed to disappear." Maria wiped tears she pretended weren't there. Hector gripped Eli's shoulder the way Rico used to, firm and steady and promising protection that actually meant something now. The dining room filled with conversation and laughter and the specific warmth that comes from surviving something meant to destroy you. Somewhere in a county jail, Wade and Malik waited for trials that would bury them. Somewhere in Nevada, Eli's mother was 3 months sober in a program Hector paid for, rebuilding what pills had destroyed. Somewhere on Highway 60, a memorial marker bore Rico Reyes' name and the date he died saving strangers. But here, in this moment, Eli was finally home. Finally safe. Finally belonging to something that wouldn't betray him. The broken pieces had found their way back together, scarred but whole, chosen family proving stronger than blood when blood tried to break you. And that, Eli thought, watching his uncle laugh at something Cruz said, watching Lily draw pictures of motorcycles, watching Maria serve seconds with the fierce protectiveness of someone who understood how close they'd come to losing everything, that was worth every knife wound, every broken rib, every night spent homeless choosing courage over survival. Some things run deeper than patches and promises. Some things are worth dying for. But more importantly, some things are worth living for. And Eli had finally found his.